Today's episode of This Week in Startups is brought to you by Walker Corporate Law, a boutique law firm specializing in the representation of entrepreneurs. Visit them at walkercorporatelaw.com. And by Desk.com, the all-in-one customer support app for fast-growing companies. Visit Desk.com/twist to get your service desk up and running today for as low as $3 per month. And by AWS Activate, the Amazon Web Services Startup Program. It's easy to start and scale your business with AWS. Visit aws.amazon.com/activate.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Calacanis, and this is This Week in Startups. Today on the program, the founder and CEO of Imgur. They are the number 20 site in the United States with about 15 billion page views. This is an extraordinary story of just a tiny little startup that became one of the top 20 sites in the United States, and you may have not even have heard of it. Stick with us.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
Co-star.
Awesome. Hey everybody, it's Jason Calacanis, and welcome to This Week in Startups. We're here at WeWork Golden Gate, which is like a co-working facility, a co-working site right in the middle of San Francisco's Central Market neighborhood, and it's a great group of folks over here, and they were so nice to build me a studio to do This Week in Startups out of every week. And now that I'm moving up to the Bay Area from Los Angeles this summer, I'm going to be doing it a lot more here. They have locations in New York, San Francisco, Boston, D.C., Seattle. Chicago is coming soon. London's coming. They're just doing a great job at WeWork, and I love working here. Actually, I work out of here when I'm in the city. So go to WeWork.com to learn more. This show has been going on for, 437 episodes in 5 years, and it's built quite a community, and you can follow that community at TWI Startups, at TWI Startups on Twitter, and you can follow me, Jason Calacanis, on Twitter at Jason. So at TWI Startups and at Jason. And if you really love the show and you can't get enough and you want to talk about it every day, wow, you're a super fan, and you can go to twistlist.co, twistlist.co, and that's where really these rabid super fans of the show, 250 of us, just talk every day about startups and the show and the guests and what they said. And it's a lot of fun, and it's a subscription-based thing, so it's $2 a month to $20 a month. It's like really cheap, and it's a lot of fun. So today on the program is Imgur, and Alan Schaaf is with us. He founded Imgur, which some people call Imgur, but it's really Imgur.
It is Imgur.
It is Imgur, but everybody says Imgur because it's IMGUR.
Right. Well, IMG is the acronym for image.
Right.
And UR is the acronym for your.
Oh, so there's an easy way to remember.
And so
Imgur.
that's kind of how the name came to be, and it is pronounced Imgur.
Imgur. And the reason you went with that domain name was because you couldn't. It was like one that was available for $10.
$7.
So $7. That's your complete investment, and you got a 5-letter domain name for $7.
Yep.
See, that's when you know, like, it's a legit entrepreneur. If you can get a domain name for $7, that's 5 characters.
Yeah.
Because you know these domain squatters, they just bought up every domain that's 5 letters, 6 letters.
Yeah.
Over time, they've been just buying, like, it used to be they bought everyone that was 3 letters and under, then every 4 letter and under, and they had these like crazy tools that would tell you which ones weren't bought yet. Crazy.
Yeah.
But you found one, and you did this starting in 2009 when you were a student at Ohio University. Why did you start Imgur? What was the frustration or the concept there?
Yeah, so I started Imgur, actually, I've always kind of been into personal projects throughout my life. And Imgur started as a personal project.
Okay.
But I started it because I was sort of born on the internet. I've always been on the internet. I spend all of my time there. And I saw a problem with the internet, and actually specifically with Reddit, where you cannot upload and share out an image quickly. And there were tons of photo sharing websites.
Yeah, Flickr,
Picasa.
Facebook started to support images at that time, yeah.
Exactly, but those are all for sharing photos, and those require different functionality than an image.
Well,
such
what's
as
the difference there? Because most of us would just think of an image and a photo as the same thing. What's
they're
the
not
difference?
they're not the same
Okay,
thing.
explain that.
So a photo is typically something that's taken from your camera. And
Got
it's
it.
usually of a specific subject or of something, and that's something you might want to tag. You might want to say that this is Jason, and I'm
sure.
at this one place. You want to put a title on it, a description on it, and then you want to share it out with your family, the people that know you. And that makes a ton of sense for sharing photos. But for sharing images, the only feature that you actually need to share an image is no features. And that's because an image...
The feature you need is no features.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly. And so...
Now you've got me totally confused. So there's images are not photos, and the feature you need is no features.
Exactly, because when you want to share... Well, let me back up and say that an image... I described what a photo is. So
Yes.
an image is something a little more broad. It can be a meme with like text over the top.
Sure.
It could be an animated GIF or a logo, a screenshot of a game.
A screenshot of a website.
Sure, absolutely.
Something you made in Photoshop.
Exactly.
Right.
And so they're a lot more versatile, and they're not of these certain subjects. And most of the time, you don't want to add a title on it. You don't want to tag anybody. You just want to share the image to somebody.
You want to show somebody the image.
Exactly. And
That's
in that sense, uploading your image on the internet is like this unnecessary middle step that you have to go through in order to do what you actually want, which is share it out to your friend or to the internet.
So you saw this pain point because you said you spent all your time on the internet. So you consider yourself an internet addict?
Yeah,
sounds like
probably. Yeah.
Like if you're not on the internet, do you feel anxiety? Like how many hours can you, not counting sleep, not be on the internet or your smartphone, in all honesty? Like what's the longest you can remember recently not being on the internet?
I guess I like to not go on the internet during vacation.
Okay, so you
that is literally the whole point of my vacations is to not go on the internet.
But it causes a little bit of anxiety when you're not on the internet for that first couple of hours?
For the first day or so, yes. Well, especially since I am one of the only like DevOps people of the site still. So if the site went down right now, I would get an alert about it. And then now there are people in the office. Yeah, now there are people in the office who would get that back up and running. But certainly not at the start. I was on call 24/7.
So you felt like, so you saw this sort of difference between photos and images, and this very simple problem that you identified. You couldn't put an image, you couldn't attach an image to a Reddit post, and a Reddit post is just a URL that somebody wants to share on Reddit, typically.
Well, you couldn't upload your image and share it out to as many people as you wanted. And the image sharing sites at the time had this business model that really makes no sense to me. But the model was that I'm going to upload this image and then share it out. And then if it gets a certain amount of views or uses a certain amount of bandwidth, then it'll get taken down. And then it'll get replaced with an image that says, upgrade to Pro and get unlimited bandwidth and stuff like that. But it doesn't make any sense to me because if an image is so popular that it's getting all of these views and it's circulating around the internet, it's going viral, why would you take that down?
Yeah, it's almost like you're capping your upside as the brand who's hosting it.
Right. And then you're only trying to monetize that one person who uploaded it. That upgrade to Pro message is now only useful for the one person, but there are thousands of people seeing this.
Yeah, or millions, or hundreds of thousands, or tens of thousands, whatever it is.
Exactly.
So you saw this problem on Reddit. That was really like a major site, obviously growing huge in 2009. And so you just saw this like very simple problem that I'll make a very simple solution, and you bought a domain name.
Correct.
And then sometime between when you bought the domain name and solved this problem, you went from 1 user a day to how many users a day now are looking at images on Imgur?
We have 130 million people on the site every month.
Sorry. How many per day?
130, or per month, 130 million.
130 million people per month. So some number of that divided by 30 is per day, but you would assume tens of millions a day.
Yes.
Or over 10 million people a day are visiting the site.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened in that 5-year period that grew it? Was it just some group of people on Reddit immediately realized this is faster and started using it? Or was it like a slow burn? Was there a spike? Can you look at it and say that was the moment when this thing started becoming high growth?
There wasn't one moment where it started to become high growth. The Reddit community almost immediately liked it and started using it as the de facto image hosting platform for Reddit. And then shortly after that, other online communities picked it up in certain forums.
4chan.
Well, 4chan
has their own image.
That is like an image sharing service, but only amongst 4chaners.
Right.
But yeah, there was Dig was popular at the time. Something Awful. There's a lot of online communities that still today use Imgur, and now Imgur is not just a tool for Reddit; it's a tool for the internet.
Right.
And I didn't solve a Reddit-specific problem; I solved an internet problem.
And the Reddit problem was they chose to not host images. Why did Reddit choose to not host images? They just didn't want the liability, or what do you think was their thinking that made them say, let's not host images?
Right. Well, I think you would have to ask Reddit that.
Yeah. But have you ever asked them? I mean, obviously you guys have some symbiotic relationship.
Well, I have been on Reddit for close to 7 years now, and Reddit is a link aggregator.
Right.
It's the most popular content on the internet, and that content can be anything.
Right.
And a lot of times these days, it's images.
Got it. But they didn't want to host it, so you have no idea why they decided not to host it. It's got to be liability.
I can't speak for
I'm
Reddit.
guessing it's copyright or liability. They just didn't want to deal with it. Or actually, back then it was cost probably. It was expensive to host all these images, wasn't the bandwidth you used to and storage used to be expensive?
It is. Yeah, bandwidth has gotten cheaper over time, and the thing about bandwidth is the more you use, the cheaper it is. So it's gotten cheaper for us as well.
So you're an ops guy, a DevOps, which means you're a developer and you handle the servers. What kind of traffic, just ballpark, do you use, and what does it cost to serve up that many images per day, 15 billion pages, all this stuff?
Yeah, well, we're doing 18 petabytes of bandwidth a month.
Okay.
And I can't tell you how much that costs, but it's quite a bit.
Yeah, so we're talking about probably hundreds of thousands of dollars a year or per month, or tens of thousands?
Yeah, I can't comment on how much it costs.
And is there where do you serve all this stuff? You serve it all out of like Amazon, or
we're hosted on Amazon, and then we have CDN deals with content delivery networks that actually serve the images.
But you're so big now, like aren't you in a way your own CDN? Like why would you use all these CDNs when you're getting so big? Wouldn't you build out your own infrastructure at a certain point?
Maybe at a certain point, but honestly, I hope that point never comes. And the reason that is because we want to focus on the product. We want Imgur to be the best place on the internet to be entertained through images. And maybe someday down the line, if we feel that it's cheaper to host and all of these things ourselves and to build a CDN, if it's actually cheaper to do that and we have the manpower, that might make sense. But right now we're just focused on the core user experience.
All right, so you did what 1 in 10,000 startups do. You had a service that actually got what we call in the business escape velocity. You got to like critical mass of users, over 10 million people using it a month, which is where I would put put escape velocity for a consumer product. When we get back from the commercial break, I want to talk about how do you monetize this, because my God, if you're the 20th largest site, that means obviously you're making billions of dollars a year. I'm being a little facetious now. I know that you're just starting that journey. Hey, if you're building a startup, you need a great attorney, and Walker Corporate Law is one I can recommend with all my heart. Scott Walker runs this boutique law firm, which encourages fixed fees. So instead of like charging you by the hour, and you getting shocked with huge bills, he'll do fixed fees for all kinds of different projects that you need, like mergers and acquisitions, licensing agreements, terms of service, privacy policy, starting your company, stock options, all that kind of stuff. And all their lawyers have 10 to 20 years of experience. No junior associates are getting on-the-job training. And you can call Scott directly, 415-979-9998. 415, that's San Francisco. So just remember 979-9998. 979-9998. Go to walkercorporatelaw.com to see his stuff. And you can just email Scott directly, scott@walkercorporatelaw.com. And, I have all these startups who I angel invest in, and I always send them to Scott, and he does a great job of just helping them get things set up. Hey, speaking of legal issues, and speaking of Imgur, not Imgur, Imgur, Imgur.com, and I'm speaking with Alan. It's Schaaf, right?
It is Schaaf.
Schaaf, yeah, but spelled S-C-H-A-A-F. Right. So, Alan, speaking of legal issues, I know, I sort of feel like you're the YouTube of images. That's a fair kind of comparison.
We are, in fact, the YouTube of images.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily position ourselves like that, but it is in the sense that if you go on the internet and look at a viral video, that's going to be on YouTube. Or if you want to host a video on the internet, you're probably going to go to YouTube first.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing for images. We have all of the viral images on the internet, and if you want to host an image on the internet, then you go to Imgur.
Which then obviously leads to when you have an open platform like this and you host anything and anybody can upload anything, of course, there are people who do bad things intentionally or not. And this almost killed YouTube, right? There's huge lawsuits about like copyright and stuff like that.
No,
so,
that didn't almost kill us.
No, not you. YouTube.
Oh, YouTube.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, YouTube basically, I mean, the thinking was YouTube sold to Google because they didn't think they were going to be able to defend the lawsuit over some huge period of time, and that's what people said at that time. So how do you avoid that, and how many like takedown notices does a site at your scale get? Is it like, is your whole life just dealing with people saying, that's my copyrighted image, or, you know, that's an image that's illegal to have online, or that's an image of something like people put up these death photos, or God forbid, child porn and stuff like this. I mean, you have an open platform. You have to deal with this on a regular basis, I would assume. How often do you get these kind of takedown notices or FBI people or this kind of thing?
Yeah, man, you're making it sound like much more of a problem than it actually is.
Well, that's why I'm asking, because, it almost killed YouTube. So I wonder if, in your case, it's the same or similar.
Yeah, it's not similar to YouTube in this case, actually. We don't get that many.
Really?
In fact, we have 2 people, 2 support people. But even at the start, we have 1 support person, and she's also the director of community. And so she has a lot of things on her plate, and responding to DMCA requests is just one tiny thing that takes up almost none of her time.
What do you attribute that to? Because, I mean, YouTube was getting, like literally thousands and thousands of these per day from copyright holders. Is it that images are different than video, like they're just not as like valued in that way, like, or maybe people don't defend them as much?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not sure, but all I know is that it's really not a big problem for us. And when we get a notice, we immediately take it down.
Yeah.
And it takes about 5 seconds per image, if that.
You just press a button, boom.
We press a button and boom, and then if it is illegal content, then that button will also send the correct information to the correct people. And I know for a fact that we are responsible for at least 1 child pornography arrest.
Oh, great.
So we are definitely doing our part for the internet, but even still, it's I wish we could probably contribute more to that. But the reason why we can't is we don't get that many requests.
It's interesting, yeah. And how much of the traffic, I mean, originally you built this, and I'm assuming it was, almost all Reddit. But how has that changed over time? The amount of people using this as like going to it direct versus coming to it or experiencing it because they have like the Reddit browser extension that lets you pop up the images. Because it does seem like now when I go to your homepage, it feels like, and you have now an iOS app that's pretty slick, it feels like it's kind of becoming almost like a Reddit of its own.
It is a destination.
Yeah.
And we have 30% of our traffic coming to us direct.
30% now.
30%.
Wow. And what? Oh, that's significant. So, is there a community starting here now? Are people like? Is it starting to become like a dig of its own?
The community has been there for years, and now they're so big that they are literally marrying each other on the platform, and literally people are finding their
marrying each other
and finding their true loves on the platform as well. In fact, I find this so interesting. In fact, the community is such a community and such a tight-knit group of people, and people that are like-minded and like each other. They've spawned dating sites. And how many other online communities on the internet have spawned a dating site? Because I can't think of any.
Not many.
Imgur has 2 of them, and they compete.
2 dating sites.
They compete against each other. That's how active the community is on Imgur, and how much they want to take their relationship into now the real world or the physical world.
What do you think drives these online communities? Obviously, you spent a ton of time. You spent a ton of time doing Reddit, had this insight, and now you're building your own. What do you think it is that actually makes these communities sort of gel? Is it comedy? Is it irony? Is it people making one-to-one connections? What do you think because a lot of people say, like, oh, I want to build a community, and, like, it never shows up. Like,
Right.
So you had one show up here and grow into, I'm assuming it's at scale now. There's got to be millions of people who are, out of the 130 million people who experience an image from Imgur, I'm assuming 1 million of them participate in some way in comments? I don't know. 1%, 2%?
Well, I think growing communities is hard and that it has to happen organically. And if you set out to create a community, frankly, I'm not sure what you would do. But I know that what we focused on and what we still focus on now is user experience. And when we develop on the product, or basically any decision that we make, we factor in, are the users going to like this? Is this actually a good user experience? And so we saw a community grow real early on. And our first full-time employee was the director of community. And so we hired her to shape that and help it grow as much as possible. And now it's huge. But again, I think it all comes back to having a great product and having a company that focuses on user experience.
So you have ads on the site now, like little ones, like I guess this is a medium rectangles, like on the bottom right side. Is those ad networks or AdSense or?
We have two types of advertising on the site. One is the one that you're speaking to, which is like standard display advertising, like IAB 200 by 350 ads.
Right.
And then the other type of advertising we do is actually native, or we call sponsored advertising.
Yeah.
And we work with some pretty big brands, and they create content for our community. And then we submit that to the gallery, and it like lives and breathes, and just like any other image does on the site, where people can vote on it and comment on it and share it out.
So it can be a little scary if you're like an advertiser who was hated or people wanted to make fun of, but you wouldn't probably be advertising then.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't want to, or there probably wouldn't be a good fit there. We're pretty selective on who we use for sponsored advertising.
And what's an example of somebody who's done advertising on it, and how does it differ than just like the banner ad on the bottom right? Like, is there some case where you could say like, wow, look at this person paid a very small amount but got massive engagement?
Well, people don't spend very small amounts for our sponsored images. Right now they're pretty much for the big brands that we think are a good fit for our platform. And one example of that is when the new Grand Theft Auto game came out a few months ago. That's by Rockstar Games.
Yep.
So we did a sponsored, it was actually the first time we've done anything related to video on our platform. And it was a sponsored video of like a new sneak peek of Grand Theft Auto. And the community loved it. It was a great fit. We have a lot of gamers on the site, and literally the top comment was, if this is an ad on Imgur, I'm okay with this. So like, not only do you, like, I think that if someone is indifferent to your advertising, that's phenomenal. They like don't hate your ad, and that's amazing. If somebody actually likes your ad and like connects to it, that there's like nothing better than that in advertising.
And how do you charge for it? Is it like how BuzzFeed does it, where they like charge them a fee to make the content, and then like a CPM, or how do you do it? Like if I wanted to buy it,
we work with them on creating the content. We come up with some ideas. One time we actually created a meme for them, but we don't currently charge for that service. We just want them to have the best content possible to advertise with our community.
How do you make sure with this native advertising, because it's come up a bunch of times, like what's great about native advertising is it feels like content, and so if you do a really good job, people might actually not know that it's an ad, right? And then all of a sudden that like triggers a bunch of like, oh, wait a second, that's probably not cool.
Yeah, it's good to be transparent though that it is actually an ad.
Yeah, of course. How do you do that though?
How do you
make sure the users know it's an ad versus not?
Just with the proper messaging. We actually, if you visit the homepage and there's a sponsored image, it will be outlined with a blue border.
Oh, I see it there, and it has sponsored. Yeah, super clear actually. I'm looking at it right now. And
yeah,
it's got
you don't want the users to feel like they're being tricked or anything.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty good. It says it's a blue sponsored right in the top, and yeah,
exactly.
So, at what point did you decide like this was going to be a real business?
So that's an interesting question because it started out
You said it
as
started
just
as
a project.
Yeah, project.
And really at the start, there was no intention of turning it into a business. And there was just a small donate link in the footer that if you donated, you were able to upload some higher quality images. And a lot of people donated, and it actually kept the site running for over 6 months. And then eventually we included ads and stuff like that. But I think maybe I might be able to credit my mom for turning it into a business.
Oh, really?
Because once I started collecting ad revenue, she's like, you should probably turn this into an LLC and actually start, trademarking some stuff. And so that's when it actually formally
Was your mom an
became.
entrepreneur? How did she know?
She actually is. She owns her own real estate company.
So she's like, hey, get an LLC, pay one-time tax, and let's get you
exactly, yeah, and
protected.
Get some stuff trademarked, copyrighted.
Were you in Ohio at this time?
We were in Ohio, yeah.
So you're in Ohio, you create this. Mom tells you, hey, listen, smarten up, son. This is a business here. And then at what point do you move to the Valley, or are you still in Ohio, or what's going on?
Yeah, so then some time goes on, and we really treat it like a business. We start getting some really great ad deals. I bring on Matt Strader, our COO, full-time, and now it's the two of us. He's working on the business side while I get to work on the product and the tech side.
And you never raised any money during this time, or did you?
No, we did not. Matt Strader actually came from a pre-seed fund called Tech Growth Ohio, and we still can't find the original email that he found out about Imgur from, but essentially the school had a newsletter sent out something that says, hey, look at what Alan Schaaf is doing at Imgur, and he saw that, and he reached out to me and said that he could provide some business help through Tech Growth Ohio. And I was a bit skeptical. I was like, okay, yeah, business help, yeah, okay, we'll meet.
What is this exactly?
Yeah, what is this? And so, I met with him, we had coffee, and obviously a good fit, and so I start working at Tech Growth Ohio, and he, since he works at a pre-seed fund, we were able to get some grant funding, $25,000 grant funding for some servers and some miscellaneous stuff that we wanted to do. But that's literally free money, no strings attached, didn't give up anything. And with that came an office in the Tech Growth building. And with that came his business help. But eventually I was able to steer him over to my side full time.
Great. He saw the opportunity, clearly. So this is the biggest Silicon Prairie company ever, just in terms of how much has been raised and how big it's gotten, do you think? You've heard that term, Silicon Prairie? They call it the
haven't
middle.
heard that term.
Yeah, it's like what's between New York and L.A. and Chicago. They call it Silicon Prairie. They've always been trying to brand these things, Silicon Alley, Silicon Prairie, Silicon Beach, whatever. But is there a big scene in Ohio, or?
It's up and coming. It's not too big now, but they've been working on it for years. And they have a lot of resources now for entrepreneurs.
Awesome. When we get back from this second break, I want to talk about raising $40 million, most of it from Mark Andreessen and Ben Horowitz. Wow, that's huge. And how you did that, this little humble project from Ohio, then becomes the talk of Silicon Valley, and you get literally one of the top 5 venture firms to put in an extraordinary amount of money. And then what the hell do you plan on doing with that much money for an image hosting site? I mean, these are all serious questions we need to ask. Okay, hey, thanks to our friends Desk.com for providing great customer service software to us. We use it here at Launch and This Week in Startups when we have our events. And it's really great to be able to, for just a couple of bucks a month per user, get a 360-degree view of our customers. They're all talking to us on Facebook and Twitter, and you get these things, right? You get all these customers, and you need to put it all in one place, in one global inbox. Like we used to say in the old days, like a global inbox where the phone and the email and the social channels are all in one place. And you can use it on desktop, tablet, mobile, and they've got tons of analytics to help you improve your agent productivity and route feedback to your product management teams. Obviously, customer service is where you're going to get your best product ideas. And like I said, we use it here to manage all of these emails that keep coming in about the launch ticker and the conferences and This Week in Startups. Go visit desk.com and thank at Desk on your Twitter handle. And Yeah, that's it. Desk is awesome, and we use it, and we love it. And thank you so much to them for supporting independent media like This Week in Startups. So with me, Alan Schaaf of Imgur, imgur.com. Go ahead and check it out. So at what point did you start getting like the real deal investors contacting you? And who was the first? Like who decides like Imgur is like worthy of Silicon Valley money? And were you even here in the city when that happened, or are you still in Ohio?
Well, we've sort of always been talking with investors, and the first one we started talking with actually flew out from here to go meet us in Ohio.
Huh? That's a big statement.
Yeah, it was a pretty big
Mom
vote
must
of
have been pretty
confidence for
stoked
us.
about that. Did you tell Mom?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know.
Mom,
it was
the
5
VCs are
years
coming
ago
out.
now. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I didn't really know what. To be honest, I didn't even know what a VC was.
Right.
I definitely not. It definitely wasn't started as like a startup. It was started as a project that solved a need and just did it really, really well. And essentially, I've been along for the ride ever since.
Right.
And so now I'm very well acquainted with VCs. We've met with all of them. And yeah, recently we found the right partner.
And so how did you choose between all these VCs, and how did you get yourself educated up on all this stuff, and like, you know, and why even the need to raise it if it was profitable?
Yeah, so why the need to raise?
Yeah, like you were profitable, right? Like, I mean,
We were profitable from the very beginning,
Right,
thanks
seems
to
that way.
donations and then advertising.
So why did you choose to raise money, and
Yeah.
how did they convince you to do that? How did you convince yourself to do that?
Yeah, well, it took us 5 years to actually answer that question. Like, do we need to raise money? How much would that be? And is the time right? And it's a really important decision. And again, it took us a long time to figure it out. But it occurred to me that we've spent so much time focusing on the product and focusing on the community and the user experience, and we built that to be the best that it can be, and we now have a massive user base. But by focusing on all of those users, we kind of neglected the team. And so we just recently hired some more people, but we were 13 people. With 13 people managing a site that's 130 million uniques.
It's only 10 million
incredible.
each.
Yeah.
You're only responsible for
Exactly.
10 million people each.
Exactly. And so we've stretched ourselves thin.
And
We
were people
need more
burning
people.
out and stuff like that, or like the wheels coming off? You just were terrified that it could all come apart?
The wheels weren't necessarily coming. It wasn't that bad.
Right.
But we definitely needed some more people. We had all these products that came over time that we have to support, and we don't want to just release it and forget about it. And so we just want to move faster. We want to grow the team. We want a bigger office. We want to split the team out into sub-teams and have each team focus on one of those products. And so that's why we raised money.
And how much did you raise? And yeah, why so much? I mean,
It was 40 million.
40 million. Holy cow.
And
all
why-
from Andreessen
yeah.
Horowitz, or did you do angels and other people? Or
Yeah, almost, well, the vast majority from Andreessen Horowitz, and then Reddit had a small strategic part as well.
And so why did Reddit decide to invest? I mean, and why did you approach them about investing?
They approached us.
Okay.
And we have always been really friendly with Reddit, but there was never any sort of business relationship with the company. I've been to their offices a bunch of times. We've played board games. We know each other and we're friends, but there was never, on paper, we are two companies that work together.
What board game? What do you mean? You just sort of slip that in there and you expect me not to say anything? Yeah, well, we had some high-level strategic meetings with Reddit, and we accepted their investment. We played
did
some
not
board games.
have high-level
Well,
strategic
what is
meetings.
it,
We
Settlers
had
of
board games and we
Catan
we
or something
drank.
like that? What are you playing with these guys?
Actually,
Monopoly?
Actually, I'm a real big fan of Settlers.
Yeah. Did I pronounce that right? Settlers of Catan?
I
Is that
think
it?
I think that's right.
Settlers of Catan, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have like nerds in my family who like bust us out at Thanksgiving sometimes. and
Yeah,
I'm like, what the
it's a
hell are
good
you doing?
game.
I mean, I did Dungeons and Dragons when I was a kid, so you're playing board games with them. And they don't see you guys as competitive because like all of us on the outside look at this and we're like, wait a second, like if Reddit turned on images tomorrow, what would happen to you guys? Like, or if the Reddit community has a better experience over at, Imgur, which it's kind of feeling more and more like Reddit, like, and you start doing subreddits, like, do you have subreddit type functionality, like topics and groups
We
like that yet?
Currently do not have topics or
Right.
groups.
So you're like one feature away from sort of being a competitive set with them, and they're one feature away from being like the full competitive set with you. If they add images and you add subreddits, it's the same product in a way, is it not?
I don't know how to answer that. Is it the same product?
Or is it like it becomes like very like, it sort of feels like when Microsoft had like WordPerfect, right, as a partner, and then they launched Word. Like if they launch images, what would happen? Let me just take it that way. Like if they launch images, would Imgur be at like huge risk of like losing half of its users or not?
Well, for one.
And do you think about that? Because it doesn't seem like I feel more worried about it than you do.
Yeah,
Why is that?
I think you might be. Well, so for one, the two companies are friendly, and now they are investors, and I would highly doubt that they would actually turn on images, because that's not what they do. They're a link aggregator.
Right.
But if we were actually to assume that was the case, and they changed their minds, they do actually want to do that.
Right.
What would happen is your question. Well,
yeah.
I think we might lose a little bit of traffic, but honestly, not much. We have our own, again, massive dedicated community.
Yeah. Coming direct, you said before. Yeah.
Yeah, coming direct. We also have. Imgur is a tool for the internet. People use it on countless online communities.
Right. Yeah. So you're not.
Yeah.
They're your largest referrer, but you're not completely dependent on them.
Correct.
And it's been going down.
Absolutely.
So now, do you feel then, so they invested in a way that signals to me that they're saying, yeah, we're not going to turn images on. We want to be a long-term partner with you. But now, do you feel limited? Like, oh, wow, they're so loyal to us. They invested. Like, obviously, like having subtopics would be like a great feature for Imgur. So now do you think like, oh, I shouldn't launch that because I'd be screwing my partner kind of thing? Like, does it limit your feature set in your mind?
Well, it's extremely new. We've just accepted that money, last month.
Right.
So far, it has not affected our thinking, and they, have been hands off. It was more of a vote of confidence for us, but I don't think it would affect any sort of product roadmap.
Do the BuzzFeeds, how do the BuzzFeeds and the Business Insiders and some of those people look at the platform now? Because it seems to me also, like BuzzFeed's lists, where they do like the animated GIF stacked, it feels like they were inspired by you guys to do those, right? Because I saw those first on Imgur.
Yeah, our content gets out to a lot of other sites.
You don't mind that? Or do you mind? Like, so if BuzzFeed gets inspired by like some of the lists that the community is making and they embed Imgur on their site, is that okay? Or is that
actually embedding images is okay?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to do it for commercial usage, and you're not supposed to act like we are some sort of content delivery network and host all of your stuff on Imgur. And we actually do block sites.
Oh, do people do that? They're just like, oh, this will be free image hosting?
They actually
abuse it.
Sometimes put in Imgur links into like their CSS style sheets. Now all of a sudden we're like hosting all of their assets for their website and stuff. That's not really what we do. So
that's not cool.
Yeah.
And then what do? You just turn them into like an image of like a daisy or something like that and be like, please don't see out.
I mean, that's one idea. We
just turn them off.
We just turn them off.
So what is the relationship like with like a BuzzFeed or something like that? Like, and is that like a potential relationship in the future for you guys? Because it does seem like there's overlap there.
Yeah, I think there is overlap with BuzzFeed. I think that would be sort of an interesting partnership. I know that we know a few guys over there, but we've never really dove deep into what that partnership might look like or if there's anything there at all. But I think that what they're doing is super interesting, and they're doing a fantastic job of working with advertisers. And so,
yeah, they do the native advertising thing
BuzzFeed's
really well.
a really cool company, and I mean they're up to some cool stuff as well.
Yeah, I could totally see them having like from our partner Imgur, like the community did this, we put that over there. So now, the next logical step for YouTube was to give their content creators a way to monetize their content, right? Like, at a certain point, they're like, that's great that you guys are uploading your videos. We're free hosting. Awesome. We're a free community and a platform. But then people said, like, yeah, I'd like to make money off that. And they're like, sure, we'll sell the ads, and then you, take a split, 55-45. Do you think that's going to happen at some point where people will be like, yeah, I'm an animated GIF artist and I make memes really well, and you say, hey, we'll just split revenue with you, image creator, in the way that YouTube splits. And have they asked for that? Has the community asked for that? Like,
Nobody's really asking for that, and I don't think that would be something that we're interested in. It makes sense for YouTube because people want to build up their brand or their personal image on YouTube and become a YouTube star.
Yeah.
For Imgur, it's more about the community. There's not really a big sense of the individual on Imgur, and so you don't really have to build up your profile, or you don't have people going to your profile. You submit it to the community. You submit your image to the internet, and that Imgur allows your image to go viral.
So where do you see this in 5 years? Because in 5 years or so, you've gotten to what, if I assume half your traffic's from the United States or something like that, or 2/3, who knows? You've kind of got half of all the Americans who are online using the product already. If there's 300 million Americans and 200 and change are online pretty regularly, and you've got 100 of them or 75 of them, you've got some just wicked market penetration. And if you're number 20, or even even if you're just in the top 50, you're sort of reaching the top of the U.S. market. Where do you see this in 5 years? What is it going to look like?
Well, I think that's a tough question because the internet moves really fast.
It does.
But I think broadly where we're going to be in 5 to 10 years, we are going to own the image. We are going to own the animated GIF. We're going to own self-expression on the internet through images.
And what about creation tools? Like you have Sketch, which was bought by Evernote, and you have some people making these like sites where you can make memes kind of thing. Do you guys have any of those functions?
We do have a meme generator.
Oh, yeah. Which one is yours? Is it on Imgur?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, actually, there's an iOS app as well.
Oh, really? I wasn't even aware of that. What's it called?
Meme Gen.
Oh, Meme Gen.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. I didn't even know that. And so this meme thing, what? Because it seems like it sort of took over Reddit. I kind of find it like it's almost too much on Reddit. Like, is there a way to turn off all the memes on Reddit? Like, that would be a great thing. But what percentage of all this activity is like memes, do you think?
It's not about memes. It's about being able to say more with a specific piece of content, like an image, than you can with anything else on the internet. You can have a reaction GIF, which is a GIF of something happening, a person's reaction to something, that literally will be able to say more than you could ever say, with actually typing it out. It actually conveys an emotion, and that's what memes do as well.
Yeah, I also like this storytelling through GIFs or animated GIFs or GIFs. If you look at this one, like people are taking, can we pull this up? Is my screen working, by the way? Can we pull it up or no? Yes or no? Jacob, can we pull my screen up or not? Just say yes or no. No, okay. Well, anyway, I have like the people are taking like Game of Thrones or something, or just whatever episode happened, and they pick 5 scenes from it. They make a 5-second animated GIF, and then they put a little bit of text on it. But I see this happening all the time on Imgur now. Is that like Steve Harvey is doing this, and like to get people to watch Steve Harvey, or is it the audience is actually taking the time to plug their DVR in or screen capture this stuff?
It is the audience, yeah.
How much time is that? I mean, that must take somebody when they do those kind of long things an hour to do or something. What's motivating those people?
At least.
Yeah.
What's motivating them? Exposure on the internet.
Yeah.
They get their voice out. They're able to say what they want to say through their series of GIFs, and they get reputation on Imgur for it. We literally have a whole point system on the site. And the more points you have, the more notoriety you get. But I don't know if they're doing it for the fake reputation points, because you don't get anything with the reputation points.
Yeah, it's not like the reputation points are like skee ball where you can trade them in for like a deck of cards or some bubble gum or something.
Other than like a title.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're doing it necessarily for that, even though it might help. But they're doing it to get their voice out there. It's fun.
Yeah. What do the big media companies think of these things? Like, they obviously got upset about like, hey, when people uploaded their stuff to YouTube, which was a minute plus, right? So, but it seems like everybody's kind of cool with animated GIFs and like, okay, here is 8 seconds of a LeBron dunk or 5 seconds of a reaction shot or 10 seconds of HBO Game of Thrones. Have you had those brands say to you like, hey, there's a limit or like what we think is fair in terms of people using them? Or do they just think like, yeah, go for it? Because it kind of feels like it's an opportunity too on a business. It feels like they're becoming like a major part of the internet expression. And then it also feels like it's somebody else's content. So do the brands care that people are using them now? How do brands look at it? Do you get brands complaining, saying like, hey, take down these Game of Thrones things?
I'm not sure how brands are necessarily thinking about that, but if I was a brand and I saw the way that the internet is interacting with my brand,
yeah,
especially something like Game of Thrones, then
Yeah.
I would be thrilled to see that kind of engagement.
yeah, they've kind of turned a corner in that way. Like,
Yeah.
stop using our stuff. Oh wait, you're using our stuff. That means you love us.
Uh-huh.
We should encourage this.
That's the way I would think about it, yeah.
Yeah, it does feel like that. And so, all these rumors, people want to buy your company. I heard Yahoo wanted to buy it, or other people were like buzzing around. So
There were some rumors
Yeah.
that people wanted to buy Imgur, but we just raised $40 million to grow a big independent business.
Right.
And so it definitely would not make sense to raise a bunch of money and then sell immediately.
It doesn't make much sense. Although that did happen with Instagram. They raised a bunch of money and they sold the next month and doubled Sequoia's money.
Yeah, I'm not sure what their logic was, but
Well,
our
obviously
logic
you're
is
not
that we want to
interested. Yeah.
we want to grow a big independent company.
And so, yeah, no interest in selling, and you think you've got another 5 years you could work on this, or 10 years you could work on it?
I think that there's a lot of interesting things coming up for us, and for one thing, we're working on a lot of interesting products, but I think
You seem to have a multi-product head about you. Like, we could make multiple products under this one brand. Is that part of the strategy? Like, oh, you got meme generator over here. Do you want to have like 20 different apps?
Imgur is multiple products in that we have an API, we do have a meme generator, we have this what we call the gallery, which is sort of the main experience as you browse through it, and then we have all this stuff related to accounts. Those are sort of all the products that I'm speaking of, but there's a lot of interesting things coming up, and again, we're going to own self-expression through images on the internet.
Got it. What about video? I mean, it would be de minimis for you to add it as a feature, I think, and people must be banging on your door every day saying like, can I just put up a video? And how do you think about that? Because Flickr sort of was like, they took this weird intermediary step where they're like, you can upload I don't know what the limit was, 30 seconds or a minute. It was some weird thing they did where like, yeah, you certainly can upload images, do 1 minute, and do a video, do a minute. And it didn't seem like they really actually worked on the UI around it. How do you think about that?
Well, Imgur, for one, just the name Imgur,
Right.
it's an image sharing site.
Right.
And it's all about the instant gratification effect that you get from images, which is completely unique among the content that's on the internet. Is that you see an image and you have a reaction towards it, and you don't have to spend a lot of time consuming this thing. You don't have to read it. You don't have to spend multiple minutes watching this video and you're waiting for it to buffer and stuff like that. You see it and you have a reaction, and that's what's unique about images, and that's what we're optimizing for on Imgur. And so I don't think we're going to be doing video, but even if we did, the only thing that would make sense is really short form, 5-second long, almost like the animated GIF.
Yeah.
In fact, it would be like the animated GIF.
The animated GIF format kind of sucks, right? Like it's like a really
It
old
does
standard.
suck.
It's inefficient.
It was created in the 80s. It wasn't even created for the purpose of animation.
Yeah. And so there's got to be is there a better GIF version coming? Like, are people, because I know some people are saying like use MPEG or there's other standards, or the new standard, I guess Google back, the open standard for images.
You can convert GIFs into video, and there's also this relatively unknown animated PNG.
You can do animated PNGs?
You can do animated PNGs,
I had no
and
idea.
Imgur supports it.
Are animated PNGs like built into browsers or just Safari or?
Last I checked, Firefox was the only one that supported that, but that was actually a long time ago. I wouldn't be surprised if Chrome also supported that.
Yeah.
But Imgur supports that format, and you can do animated pings, and they look a lot better than an animated GIF.
bet
But
you
they're just not
smaller
well known,
sizes,
really. They're not well as circulated as GIFs.
So did you move the company here, or do you still have operations in Ohio?
We moved the company here.
Yeah. And what's that been like for you? You grew up in Ohio?
Yeah, I originally grew up in Florida and then moved out from Florida to Ohio when I was 10. So yeah, I pretty much grew up in Ohio.
What's it like to now be in Silicon Valley for you as an entrepreneur? Is this your first company? You had projects, you said before.
I had a lot of projects. I actually had a sort of like a Geek Squad type company where I went and visited your house and fixed your computer.
Was there one geek, or were there more than one geek?
That was just myself.
Right. So you had a company of one. It was the Geek Squad. The squad with a
It wasn't
geek.
called. It was called Schaaf's Networking Solutions.
So you're an IT help desk kind of guy. That's where I started. Too,
I was 15 when I did that.
Yeah.
I couldn't even drive to my own appointments. My mom had to drop me off.
Mom would drive. You should be outside. She'd be like, "You fix the printer, and you get $25."
Exactly, and I did that all the way into college.
Right. You just go in and you reboot the computer, and now it works. And
well, hopefully, yeah.
Rebooting, the number one solution in IT. So what's that like for you personally? I mean, it's got to be mind-blowing for your mom. But what's it like for you to now be in the big leagues in Silicon Valley with one of the hottest companies that's got over 100 million people using it? Do you wake up some days and pinch yourself? Can you believe it?
I can believe it because, well, for one, you have to embrace it and you have to live it. And it's, again, I'm sort of along for the ride. Just doing my best. And that's pretty much, all I can do. But it's definitely a lot of work. A lot of long hours, a lot of sacrificing personal things in other areas. Yeah. But it's also a ton of fun. It's awesome, actually.
Yeah, so you seem pretty excited about it. How's San Francisco like in doing this different than being the, IT kid or the guy doing projects in Ohio? How's it different for you now? Like,
how's it different from fixing people's computers in Ohio?
Yeah.
Well, it's a lot different.
It's totally different.
Yeah.
I think I'm more excited about your success than you are, Alan. This has been an interesting interview. Yeah. You're very humble, and it's quite charming, actually. And listen, I mean, it's a tremendous start. I mean, where you are now is like where so few startups get. So congratulations on all that, and congratulations on being able to raise the team and now you're saying do it right. I think you guys are, God, wow. What about international? What is it, like a third of the people come international or something?
Yeah, actually, international is probably a huge area of growth for us.
For sure.
Because we're 60% US. Right. And then the next biggest is Canada, and then the UK, and then Australia. So we're pretty much in English-speaking countries.
Yeah. Ireland.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of potential for internationalization, but that's also not something that we're necessarily focusing on at the moment. But I think there's a big opportunity there.
All right, listen, Alan, continued success with Imgur. Everybody check out imgur.com. I'm guessing that you have some job openings now that you've got this huge bank account.
We do have some job openings.
Jobs.imgur or no? Or jobs
Imgur.com/jobs.
Imgur.com/jobs. What's the stack? This is Ruby? What is this?
We're hosted on Amazon Web Services.
Okay.
So we use EC2, and we use PHP and things like Nginx and HAProxy and Varnish.
You better be using Nginx.
HBase and Hadoop.
Wow. So a lot of the latest stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's got to be fun for a developer to be there.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun for developers.
And to deal with all that scale.
Interested, then yeah. Exactly.
I mean, this is like an at scale. Like when you make a change, it's going across
Yep. The developers at Imgur have a huge impact.
How many Nginx servers do you have against something like this? Hundreds instances?
During peak times, we have just over 100.
Wow. But just to think about that, though, with just 100 instances or servers or whatever, you can actually... Nginx is phenomenal, isn't it?
That's a great piece of software.
It's like some Russian kid built it or something.
I met him once at a dinner. He is Russian.
So but from Russian, not an American Russian. He's from Moscow or something, and he built this incredible caching layer that I hear everybody's using now.
Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal software. Yeah, and he's a great guy too.
Awesome, and thanks to our friends at the Walker Corporate Law Group. Scott, you're a great guy. I appreciate all the support over the years. And thanks to our friends at Desk.com, by the fine folks at Salesforce. Thanks again to Jacob and producer Gina, Jade, Emily, Andrew on the launch ticker, Luke and Brandon, Demont, Bryce, everybody who makes everything happen here on such a regular basis. And hey, if you're interested in being the new producer of This Week in Startups, the position will be open over the summer. And starting July 1st, we'll have a new producer. Thank you to producer Gina for leveling up the show. And we're going to be hiring somebody in San Francisco to produce the show. We've also got an events position open at launch. Yeah, just check out blog.launch.co and you can find information on the job openings, or just contact me if you think you're the right person. We'll see you next time on This Week in Startups. Bye-bye. Nicely done.